All right, how's everybody doing today? Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. Today is Friday, June 29th, 2018. Friday, June 29th, 2018. And we made it through another week. We're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network on Facebook. All right, so let me test everything out, monitor everything out. You should be able to hear me okay. All right, so share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. All right, and we'll post this on our YouTube channel as well, Michael Imhotep on YouTube, okay? All right, so I had been following this story since this past weekend, dealing with our sister Maxine Waters, okay, Representative Maxine Waters from California, okay, and she's also a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. And the story has gained traction since this weekend. We know Donald Trump was on the campaign trail a couple of days ago campaigning for Republicans. And he made this an issue also, all right? Washington Post has an article dealing with this, and other news outlets dealing with Maxine Waters receiving death threats, or at least one death threat, but increased threats, all right? And we posted about this last night on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, okay? So this is nothing to laugh at. This is not something funny. And Trump has been instigating a lot of this. So the Washington Post on June 28th, Thursday, June 28th, 2018, reported Representative Maxine Waters cancels events after very serious death threat. Representative Maxine Waters cancels events after very serious death threat, okay? It says Representative Maxine Waters, whose call for public protests of the Trump administration officials has triggered a debate over civility in politics. She said on Thursday that she has canceled events in Texas and Alabama after a, quote, very serious death threat, end quote, made against her. Now, in a statement reported by CNN, Representative Maxine Waters said that after Donald Trump took aim at her on Monday on Twitter, okay, she said, quote, even more individuals are leaving threatening messages and sending hostile mail to my office, end quote, okay? Now, we know Trump has a history of making violent statements, calling for it during his campaign rally, calling for people to be punched in the face, all different types of things like this. And let's not forget, back in the late 80s, during the around 1989, during the Central Park 5 case, okay, in New York, Donald Trump took out a full-page ad in 4 New York daily newspapers calling for the death penalty to be brought back and calling for the death penalty for the Central Park 5. After they were exonerated, after they did time in prison, after they were exonerated, DNA evidence proved that they were innocent. The police actually caught the actual person who committed the rape. Okay, Donald Trump has never apologized to them, never took back those words. Even as late in the 2016 campaign, it came up again, and he said, well, he said something to the effect of the police said they were guilty, so he still thought they were guilty. He has never apologized for that, okay? So if we look at, let's see, theroot.com has an article dealing with this also, okay? By Monique Judge. And I'm not a big fan of some of the articles from The Root, but they do have some good articles from time to time. Monique Judge on Thursday, June 28, 2018, has an article. Representative Maxine Waters says she is facing increased death threats. And in a written statement from Maxine Waters. She said, let's see, CNN reports that the Congresswoman canceled 2 upcoming events in Texas and Alabama this coming weekend, after threatening messages and hostile mail at her office, including one very serious threat received Monday from an individual in Texas. Maxine Waters said in a statement, quote, "As the president has continued to lie and falsely claim that I encourage people to assault his supporters, while also offering a veiled threat that I should, quote, be careful, end quote, even more individuals are leaving threatening messages and sending hostile mail to my office. There was one very serious threat made against me on Monday from an individual in Texas, which is why my planned speaking engagements in Texas and Alabama were canceled this weekend. This is just one in several very serious threats the United States Capitol Police are investigating, in which individuals threatened to shoot, lynch, or cause me serious bodily harm." Okay. Now, Trump, from my understanding, has been totally silent about these threats directed towards her. Okay. Trump has been totally silent about these threats directed towards her. All right. Maxine Waters is at a rally in Los Angeles this past Saturday, which was the 16th. What date was that? No, so the 23rd, June 23rd. She was at a rally in Los Angeles Saturday, June 23rd, when she said people should continue to confront members of Trump's cabinet when they see them in public. Her remarks were in response to the administration's quote unquote zero tolerance immigration policy that had children being forcefully separated from their parents at the U.S.-Mexico border, and came on the heels of Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen being heckled by activists at she was at a Mexican restaurant in Washington, D.C., and then also senior policy advisor to the president, Stephen Miller, was heckled at a restaurant as well. He was at a Mexican restaurant also. Now, Stephen Miller is a white supremacist who is largely credited with crafting this zero tolerance policy at the Mexican border. And both of them, on 2 separate occasions recently, were at Mexican restaurants. Isn't that ironic? Okay. And we know that White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders was at a Red Hen restaurant in Virginia, and she was asked to leave because of the president's position when it comes to transgender people. Okay, so you have all this taking place. Representative Maxine Waters did not call for violence. Donald Trump is lying when he said she called for harm to be done to his followers. She did not call for violence, okay? I think we have the clip here of what she said. Let's go to this. How's everybody doing? Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I wanted to do this broadcast last night, but when I got back home, I was at the Professor Griff event here in Detroit. When I got back home, it was late. I was tired, didn't get a chance to do it, okay? Let me post this information here also. Be sure to follow us on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, all right? I'm the founder of the African History Network. I operate the page. And also be sure to register for the online courses that I teach there. We have them all on demand. We have a bundle pack of 10 courses. They're on sale right now, $60, regularly $130, and they include African-American resistance in the era of Donald Trump, voter suppression, reparations, and how elections have consequences, and also ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. That's a 14-hour, 7-session online course with a lot of bonus content also. Okay, so let me see. Do we have to cue this up? Let's see. All right, let me see if we can get this here.
How dare you pull children out of the arms of their mothers? How dare you lie and say you couldn't do anything about it? American people are fed up with those who don't want us to say it. Mr. President, you need to be impeached.
Let's get a little what she said.
How dare you pull children out of the arms of their mothers? How How dare you lie and say you couldn't do anything about it? You're the one who caused it, and you're the one that we're going to make to turn it back, because what you're doing now is lying, lying, lying. The American people have put up with this president long enough. What more do we need to see? What more lies do we need to hear? It is time for us to say, even though there are those who don't want us to say it, Mr. President, you need to be impeached. That is need to be impeached. But putting this on top of all that he has done, his alignment with Russia and Putin, his love of the dictators of the world, how he has not said one word about the fact that they tapped into our DNC, underlined our democratic process. He's not said one thing about it, but he can wrap his arms around another dictator, Kim Jong-un, and tell us we ought to swallow it. We're through with you, Mr. President. We're not going to swallow it. You're not going to swallow it. You have disrespected all of us. You have violated all of us. And now you have sacrificed our children for your aims and your goals just because you want to build a wall. Mr. President, there will be no wall built on the back of these children.
Now, is this the same wall that Donald Trump on the campaign trail said Mexico was going to pay for? Is this that same wall, or is it a different wall? He's trying to strong arm $25 billion from Congress, which comes from taxpayer dollars, to pay for a wall that he said Mexico was going to pay for. Mexico said repeatedly they're not paying for a wall. Not only that, you're going to see a lot of backlash when the U.S. government starts to confiscate white people's homes that are along that border through eminent domain to build the wall. You haven't even seen a fight yet dealing with that. It's going to be a fight when they have to confiscate white people's homes through eminent domain. You're going to see a real fight on your hands. People, they're not going to stand for that. Let's go back to the clip.
You lied and you said you were going to make Mexico pay for it. They're not going to pay for it. We're not going to pay for it. You got to find these children. You got to reconnect them with their families, and we're going to get you out of office. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you so much for coming out here, because history is not going to be kind to this administration. But we want history to record that we stood up, that we pushed back, that we fought, that we did not consider ourselves victims of this president. History will record that while he tried to step on all of us, we kicked him in his rear and we stepped on him. And so the president who lies all the time, who will change on the drop of a dime, the president is watching what is going on, and the only reason he came up with this fake initiative of his is to try and say to the people that he's seeing come out in huge numbers, okay, I'm sorry, I'm scared, I'm gonna back it up, but he didn't back it up enough. He didn't back it up enough, because that initiative that he's put out does not define how they're going to connect these children with their parents. They don't know where our children are. They don't have numbers or identifications where they can connect parents, and some parents have been deported and their children are still here somewhere. That's unconscionable. And between this president and that racist Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, and John Kelly, they all said that they were going to do this. They said publicly that they were going to separate these children from their parents in an issue that they've tried to use to get that wall built so they can intimidate all of us. But again, the message has to be, Mr. President, we're not afraid of you. We're not afraid of Jeff Sessions. We're not afraid of John Kelly. We're not afraid of your administration. And while you think you have gotten away with everything that you've done, we are going to show you that you haven't gotten away with anything. We want the children back. We want them connected to their parents. We want it done now. We're going to insist on it. If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet. Already, you have members of your cabinet that are being booed out of restaurants. We have protesters taking up at their house. Who's saying no peace, no sleep. No peace, no sleep. And guess what? We're going to win this battle because while you try and quote the Bible, Jeff Sessions and others, you really don't know the Bible. God is on our side. On the side of the children. On the side of what's right. On the side of what's honorable. On the side of understanding that if we can't protect the children, we can't protect anybody. And so let's stay the course. Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere. We've got to get the children connected to their parents. The children are suffering. We don't know if the shock that they're going through can ever be overcome. We don't know what damage is being done to these children. All that we know is they're in cages, they're in prisons, they're in jails. I don't care what they call it. That's where they are. And Mr. President, we will see you every day, every hour of the day, everywhere that we are, to let you know you cannot get away with this. Thank you so very much.
All right, so that was from a rally Saturday, June 23rd in Los Angeles. She did not call for violence or harm against Donald Trump supporters, cabinet members, anything like that. Donald Trump is absolutely lying, and he's using this to try to galvanize his base, trying to turn out his base to go vote in midterm elections, to go vote in the primaries that are taking place, and to vote in midterm elections November 6, 2018. While at the same time, Trump is trying to nominate a Supreme Court justice, okay? And I may have to do a separate presentation on that, but Democrats are trying to stop this. Now, first of all, the U.S. Senate is 50-49 because Senator John McCain of Arizona is recovering from cancer treatment, okay? All Democrats need is one Republican to defect, Susan Collins or Jeff Flake. They just need, because Jeff Flake is not running for re-election, Jeff Flake of Arizona. They just need one Republican to defect, and they can block Trump's nomination, one. Two, Trump should not be able to nominate a Supreme Court justice because the Mueller investigation and whether or not Mueller can indict a sitting president could very well go to the U.S. Supreme Court. So Trump could very well be picking one of his jurors, okay? And that's a conflict of interest. So there are a number of reasons why Democrats are making the case that one, some are saying the nomination should happen after the midterm elections. Two, some are making the case that Trump should not be while his campaign is under a criminal investigation, he should not be able to make a Supreme Court nomination. Okay, even though it has to be approved by the U.S. Senate, he should not be able to make a Supreme Court nomination because just as the case over the Nixon tapes went to the U.S. Supreme Court, if I remember correctly, this with the Mueller investigation and whether or not a sitting U.S. president can be indicted or what have you, that could very well go to the U.S. Supreme Court also. Okay, so once again, during the 2016 campaign, I dealt with this on my radio show a number of times. I was doing national radio 5 days a week, and I told people repeatedly, this is not an election between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. This is not an election between one person versus another person. There are 4,000 positions Trump has to fill in his administration. This is about the U.S. Supreme Court, because the next president will probably make 3 Supreme Court nominations in their first term. This is about the federal court, which is a lifetime appointment, the federal bench. This is about who's going to be attorney general. This is about criminal justice reform, because the reforms that took place under the Obama administration dealing with criminal justice reform, those have all been reversed basically under Jeff Sessions. This is about the Environmental Protection Agency. You have the EPA being dismantled. You have a lot of environmental initiatives that President Obama put in place being reversed under Trump, a whole lot of deregulation taking place. This is about the Department of Education. President Obama shut down a lot of predatory colleges. A lot of the things that President Obama put in place in the Department of Education are being reversed under Betsy DeVos, who has no background in education. She has this woman is from Detroit. Okay, her and her husband Dick DeVos are the main impetus behind the charter school movement in Detroit, which has decimated Detroit public schools. People don't understand that we need to deal with policies, not the personalities so much. People get caught up in personalities and don't study the policies. Okay, all right, so check out the article from theroot.com by Monique Judge, Thursday, January 28th. Representative Maxine Waters says she is facing increased death threats, okay? If we go back and look at the one from the Washington Post by Felicia Sonmez from Thursday, June 28th, Representative Maxine Waters cancels events after very serious death threat. All right. So, so she canceled the events coming up this weekend in Texas and Alabama. There was one very serious death threat made against me on Monday from an individual in Texas, which is why my planned speaking engagements in Texas and Alabama were canceled this weekend. Now, a spokeswoman for Representative Maxine Waters did not immediately respond to a request for confirmation. According to this article from the Washington Post, Maxine Waters had been scheduled. Maxine Waters had been scheduled to speak Friday, June 29th, at the annual legislative conference of the National Organization of Black Elected Legislative Women in Birmingham, Alabama. National Organization of Black Elected Legislative Women in Birmingham, Alabama. The organization's president, Karen Camper, told the Alabama News website, AL.com, that Maxine Waters had canceled her appearance because of security concerns, all right? Now, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, because of threats against her, is getting Secret Service protection. If Maxine Waters does not already have Secret Service protection, she definitely needs it, okay? Now, the details of Maxine Waters' Texas event were not immediately known. We know she has also been rebuked by Republicans and Democrats after calling at the Saturday Los Angeles rally for demonstrators to confront, harass Trump's cabinet, not non-violently, wherever they go amid an escalating debate over immigration policy. But it's not just immigration policy; it's all this other stuff as well. Okay, but that's the impetus. And the other thing is the argument that a lot of civil rights organizations is making is that you're not doing this at the Canadian border, because the U.S. has 2 borders. You have the Canadian border in the north, and I live in Detroit. I live in downtown Detroit. I'm 3 minutes from the Canadian border. And you have the Mexican border in the south. They're not ripping white babies from white mothers' arms at the Canadian border, because you have undocumented immigrants coming through the Canadian border also. And the focus on undocumented immigrants is not on white undocumented immigrants. It's on those of color. It's on Hispanics, Mexicans, Hispanics, Africans from the Caribbean, those from African nations. Remember, January 9th, it was Trump who said in a meeting dealing with immigration, dealing with DACA, he said, why do we keep having these immigrants? You know, he referred to immigrants from Africa El Salvador and Haiti as S-hole countries, and he said, why don't we get more immigrants from countries like Norway? Okay, so we have to pay attention to this. All right, so now Sean Hannity, who has a nightly TV show on Fox News, but also has a daily radio show. Okay, see, a lot of these right-wing talk show hosts, they have radio shows and TV shows, and they're shaping the way a lot of white Americans think. Okay, they are shaping the way a lot of white Americans think. So because of the attack that took place on the Gazette newspaper yesterday in Annapolis, Maryland, Thursday, June 28th, and as the Washington Post reports, 5 dead in Capitol Gazette shooting. Suspect Gerard Ramos, R-A-M-O-S, is in custody, police say. Okay, he had a long-standing beef with the newspaper. He had a lawsuit against them, according to reports. He was charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and is expected to appear in Annapolis District Court for a hearing on Monday. Okay, but we know that Trump has called repeatedly. He's called the media the enemy. He's called the press the enemy. He's called them fake news. He did this during the campaign. Now, there's no direct connection. There's no evidence that that was the impetus of this killing, because this person already had a long-standing beef with the Capitol Gazette, right? But the same people who are calling for Maxine Waters to apologize, the Republicans who are calling for Maxine Waters to apologize, like Representative Paul Ryan, okay, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Paul Ryan, okay, and if you look at the article from Vox.com, VOX.com, Paul Ryan has no problem going after Maxine Waters, even as he evades Representative Stephen King's misdeeds. But Paul Ryan said Representative Maxine Waters should apologize, okay, for calling for cabinet members of the Trump administration to be confronted. But he has never said that Donald Trump should apologize for saying, calling the media fake news, for saying that the media is the enemy of the people, when they're largely holding Donald Trump accountable and exposing the lies that he tells. Washington Post documented 3,251 false or misleading statements in the first 497 days of his presidency. Not only did they document it, they actually categorized it and provide you evidence of the false and misleading statements, okay? And don't take my word for this document. You can read this yourself. Proper documentation ends all conversation. Fact checker analysis, WashingtonPost.com. President Trump has made 3,251 false or misleading claims in 497 days. Okay, this is put together by Glenn Kessler, Salvador Rizzo, and Meg Kelly. Washington Post. They have a fantastic fact-checking department at the Washington Post. All right, so you got to you have to check it out. Let me post this link here. All right, because we can document the lies that he's telling. Okay, so if we look at, let me see which one. All right, so we have the one from the Washington Post. All right, so Sean Hannity on his radio show on Thursday, June 28th, Thursday afternoon, June 28th. He appeared to suggest that Maxine Waters was partly responsible for the shooting. He said, quote, "I've been saying now for days that something horrible was going to happen because of the rhetoric." Okay. He went on to say, "Really, Maxine?" Now, he doesn't, now you have to understand, Sean Hannity, 1, is not a journalist. 2, he is a sycophant. He is a kiss ass. He is a huge advocate for Donald Trump, doesn't hold him accountable for anything. He is an accomplice of Donald Trump. He's not just on Fox News Monday through Friday at nighttime. He also has a daily radio show, all right? And he is trying to draw a connection between Maxine Waters, who did not call for violence, okay, and the shooting at the Capitol Gazette in Annapolis. Now, if we look at Maxine Waters in Congress, she addressed this issue also, and she defended herself, and she made reference to some of Donald Trump's comments as well. All right, how's everybody doing? Okay, yeah, we shared that link. See, and be sure to follow us here on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. Beatrice said, thanks for sharing the link. See, we provide you with this evidence. Proper documentation ends all conversation. You cannot fool a people who have the truth. Okay, so we provide you with these articles. We provide you with this evidence. Okay, I tell people you don't have to take my word for this. Go do your own research. All right. If you like this type of information, also you can donate to the African History Network. People ask me how can they do that. PayPal.me/the AHN show. PayPal.me/the AHN show. Okay, and that helps us to stay on the air, keep doing the research, keep broadcasting, pay the bills. Keep providing you with this type of information. Also, if you want to learn more about our history, I teach online courses. We have them all on demand. I put them in a bundle pack. We have 10 in a bundle pack. It's on sale right now, $60, regularly $130. They're all on demand, watch from around the world. We just posted the link here. It says online course. It includes my 14-hour 7-session online course, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We deal with thousands of years of history, going back 50,000, but even going back to discoveries going back 300,000 years ago, okay? It also includes African-American resistance in the era of Donald Trump, voter suppression, reparations, and how elections have consequences, and Great African Women in History, the Mothers of Civilization, and an online class I did dealing with the film Black Panther as well, all right? Okay, so if we look at a few days ago in Congress, this was posted, let's see, June 27th, in Congress, Representative Maxine Waters talked about civility, because see, so you have Republicans saying there needs to be civility. You have Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, you have Senate Minority Leader, you have House of Representatives Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi talking about civility, okay? Well, the tone is set from the top down. The tone is set from the presidency. The president is a bully. The president is not civil, okay? The president has been constantly lying. The president has been attacking people on Twitter. The president, not only that, Trump attacked Representative Maxine Waters' IQ as well, okay? So he was at a rally. No, he was talking on Twitter. Trump fired back, calling Maxine Waters, quote, an extraordinary low IQ person, end quote, and warning her to, quote, be careful what you wish for, okay, end quote. So when Trump's back is against the wall, because the Mueller investigation is getting even hotter, Trump is scared to death, okay? Trump is scared to death. Michael Cohen may flip on him as well, because the screws are tightening up on Cohen. You got Paul Manafort, who's in jail. We find out that Paul Manafort was loaned $10 million from a Russian oligarch. All this stuff is coming at Trump. You've heard very little from Rudy Giuliani also the past week or 10 days, something like that, okay? So when Trump's back is against the wall, there are three people or groups of people that Trump attacks. He attacks Hillary Clinton. Where's the where's the DNC server? Okay, he attacks Hillary Clinton, he attacks Barack Obama, and he attacks African Americans. These are the three groups of people he attacks when his back is against the wall. He attacks one, two, or all three of them. And he's going after Maxine Waters, insulting her intelligence, calls her low IQ. We haven't seen his IQ test, okay? He said that he wanted to see President Barack Obama's transcripts from college because he didn't think an African-American person could get those types of grades. But Trump hasn't volunteered his transcripts from college. Okay, so we got to watch for this. Now let's take a listen here to what Maxine Waters said during congressional meeting.
And as to the chairman's comments about civility and about what he would do if he owned a restaurant, let me just say that I think every reasonable person have concluded that the President of the United States of America has advocated violence, he has been divisive, and he has been the one that has caused what we see happening today, where people are trying to push back on his policies and where people are trying to have peaceful protests instead of violence, but he continues to call names and he continues to challenge people in very violent ways. I'll quote to you some of his saying. In his campaign, I quote, he said, "I'd like to knock the crap out of them." Further, he said, "You know what they used to do to guys like that? When they were in a place like this, they'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks." And in addition to that, we also talked about the fact that if someone was hurt or while they were being assaulted, as he was encouraging them to do, he said this: "So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them." And would you? Seriously, Trump said, "Okay, just knock the hell out. I promise I will pay for the legal fees. I promise, I promise." So, Mr. Chairman, if you want to talk about civility, you start with the President of the United States and you implore him not to continue to promote violence, not to continue to promote divisiveness. And then I think he would be a better example and people would follow a better example rather than get trapped into what he's advocating, which is pure violence. I yield back the balance of my time.
You dropped the mic on that one. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. Okay. Trump has called for violence. Not only that, on the campaign trail, he said, if you knock that person out, he said, "I'll pay your legal fees." This is what Trump says. And then people want to draw a false equivalency to Maxine Waters calling for people to confront people in the Trump administration who are public servants. Okay, she did not call for violence. They want to draw a false equivalency between that, okay, and then and say, "Oh, well, she's saying the same thing that Trump did. Do you want to talk about Trump and violence? Let's look at her." That's not the same thing. Come on. And she just said that Saturday. Trump talked about that 2 years ago. Trump said that 2 years ago. Trump constantly attacks people on Twitter. Come on. But you have a lot of spineless Republicans who are afraid to stand up to him, and every last one of them needs to be voted out of office. And Paul Ryan is not running for re-election, by the way. Good. All of these spineless Republicans need to be voted out of office. All right. Now, we have News1.com has an article from Thursday, June 28th. We'll come to some of your comments here in just a minute, but not to get out of here. Roseanne-loving restaurant owner posts racist message about Maxine Waters going, quote unquote, back to Africa. News1.com, African-American publication. Check out News1.com. Check out yourblackworld.net. We post articles from yourblackworld.net right here on our fan page, the African History Network. We post articles from News1.com. People say, "Oh, we don't have black-owned media." Yes, we do. You just don't read it. Roseanne-loving restaurant owner posts racist messages about Maxine Waters going, quote unquote, back to Africa. Now, the restaurant owner's name is Judy Tally Maxie, M-A-X-I-E. M-A-X-I-E. And she's under fire after her horribly offensive message targeting Congresswoman Maxine Waters. So she's a Virginia restaurant owner. She's under fire after posting a racist, bigoted social media message about Representative Maxine Waters. She owns Caddy's Restaurant and Lounge. Caddy's Restaurant and Lounge in Chesterfield, Virginia. Okay. And she made this post on Monday, June 25th. She said, "Maxine Waters, shut your big fat lips. No one wants to hear your racism remarks." What racism remarks did Maxine Waters say? Most white people don't even really understand what racism is. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. Racism occurs when one race of people control the majority of the wealth, power, resources, benefits, privileges, land, access to education, access to opportunity, health care, media, jobs, etc., and they use that to marginalize, subordinate, and do harm to another race of people. We can go back and see the cornerstone of racism in this country goes back to the doctrine of exclusion in 1638 in the colony of Maryland. The doctrine of exclusion, which stated that Negroes should never be permitted to enjoy the fruits of white society. Negroes should never be permitted to enjoy the fruits of white society. Is later going to be expanded around 1665 or so to state that Negroes should be relegated to a non-competitive, non-compensated managed workforce for basically the comfort building of white society. If you read Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson, he breaks this down in there, okay? But this is what racism is, all right? Now, she went on to say, go back to Africa where you came from. Read the, now here's what people have to understand with this whole go back to Africa thing. Number one, if you read this book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence by Dr. David Imhotep. One, you find out that African people have been in this land continuously that we call the United States of America going back at least 51,700 years ago. This is before Native Americans even came into existence. This is before Europeans came into existence, okay? And then if you look at the discovery from Allendale County, South Carolina, from 2004 by Dr. Albert Goodyear, who's an archaeologist for the University of South Carolina, they found 13 different disciplines that thoroughly document an African presence in South Carolina going back at least 51,700 years ago. One. Two, most of our ancestors who were enslaved Africans, because some of us have ancestry that goes back to Black Indians or African people who've been here for tens of thousands of years. Some of us have part of that ancestry in our DNA, and then Africans who were brought here during the transatlantic slave trade as well, all right? But what we have to understand is that even if we just look at the Africans who were enslaved and our slave ancestry, for those of us who have it, most of our ancestors who were enslaved Africans were here before most of the European immigrants came here who are Europeans' ancestors. So what are you talking about? And see, it's going to be a lot of these European peasants who are going to get land distributed to them through the Homestead Act of 1862, signed into law May 20th, 1862 by President Abraham Lincoln, okay? In the Homestead Act, what this does is this redistributes 250 million acres of land, all right? And a lot of this goes to peasants, the overwhelming majority of this goes to white people. African Americans are shut out of this. Then you have 45 million acres of land distributed in 5 states with the Southern Homestead Act of 1866. So the Homestead Act of 1862 was during the Civil War, second year of the Civil War. Civil War is 1861 to 1865. 1866, you have the Southern Homestead Act, which distributes 45 million acres of land. We're almost exclusively shut out of that as well. So we worked that land for 246 years. The people who worked the land for 246 years did not get the land. European immigrants who were just coming here, many of them got the land. Okay, so let's take a quick look at this here, and let me share the screen. Here we go. And this also deals with the language. This deals with some of the rhetoric, all right, that Trump is using. Now, Republicans largely are not chastising Trump for using this coded language dealing with immigration. And some of the same language has been used for African Americans and is still being used for African Americans. Infest, thugs, infiltrate, killers, criminals, under siege, massive crime, crime infested, breeding, pouring into our country, okay? Read the, look at the clip from MSNBC.com from, is that the 19th? I have to find it here. June 19th. Meet the Press Daily, MSNBC.com. It's entitled Trump Immigration Rhetoric Implies He's Appealing to Nasty, Cruel Nativist Group. Trump Immigration Rhetoric Implies He's Appealing to Nasty, Cruel Nativist Group. If you just go to MSNBC.com and search for nasty, cruel Trump, it'll probably come up, okay? That's where that graphic comes from. Now, we're talking about the first Americans were Africans documented evidence. And this is some of the information. These are some of the slides from the online course that I teach, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So when Europeans say that we should go back to Africa, I have to tell them their history and our history. So you read this book here, because this is one of the books we use in the course. You don't have to read it to take the course. You don't anything like that. But to provide the evidence, this is one of the books that we use, okay? And Dr. David Imhotep is a friend of mine. I've interviewed him about 11 times, okay? Page 14 of his book deals with the discovery from Dr. Albert Goodyear, okay? 2004, Allendale County, South Carolina. They found artifacts, architecture, campsites, carvings, Egyptian writings, footprints in lava, genetic M174D haploid groups dealing with DNA and genetics, deoxyribonucleic acid, linguistics, paintings, skulls, skeletons, structures, and tools. His book has 713 footnotes thoroughly documenting an African presence in this country before Native Americans come into existence, because the Africans they're talking about, one of the earliest group are the Khoisan. The Khoisan come from Southern Africa. They're the ancestors to the Ainu and the Twa. They go all around the world. They have the oldest DNA on the planet. Asians come to this land about 3000 BC. The Africans and the Asians intermix. Their offspring are who we call Native Americans. These are usually a dark-skinned people, high cheekbones, okay? When European settlers come to this land, and Columbus never came to this land that we call the United States of America, by the way, okay? Columbus never came to this land that we call the United States of America. This is why we need to stop lying to our children, telling them that Columbus discovered America, or talking about when Columbus came here and all this stuff, okay? Columbus never came to this land. The closest Columbus came to here, to this land that we call the United States of America, the contiguous 48 states, okay? Not Hawaii. Hawaii is not connected to this landmass, the contiguous 48 states, okay? The closest he came here was Cuba, which is 90 miles away. When we look at where Columbus went on his 4 voyages, August 3rd, 1492, he set sail on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. He goes into the Bahamas, which he calls San Salvador, Cuba, and Hispaniola, which is Haiti, okay? And he's there in Haiti and Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, right? Second voyage, September 1493, he's in the West Indies and Boricuan, which we call Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens, okay? They can't vote in the presidential election from Puerto Rico, a vote that actually counts. But if they make it to the mainland, they can vote in the vote count. He also goes into Jamaica in 1494. These are areas that Spain is conquering. Columbus is conquering these lands for the Spanish crown. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. Third voyage, May 1498, goes into Trinidad and Venezuelan mainland, South America. Fourth and last voyage, because he dies in 1506. So his fourth voyage, he starts on May 1504, goes into Panama and Honduras and Central America. And this is where some of the undocumented immigrants are coming through Mexico. And many of them are seeking political asylum. Political asylum is not illegal. That is international law based upon international treaties, okay? So the closest Columbus comes here is Cuba, which is 90 miles away. He never comes to this land we call the United States of America. If we go back and we look at Dr. Albert Goodyear and Dr. David Imhotep, okay, the first Americans were Africans, documented evidence. We look at this article from ScienceDaily.com, which is a scientific journal, scientific website. 14 years ago, new evidence puts man in North America 50,000 years ago. New evidence puts man in North America 50,000 years ago. Radiocarbon tests of carbonized plant remains, where artifacts were unearthed last May along the Savannah River in Allendale County, South Carolina, by University of South Carolina archaeologist Dr. Albert Goodyear, indicates that the sediments containing these artifacts are at least 50,000 years old, meaning that humans inhabited North America long before the last ice age. This is not my summary. This is their summary of the article, of the discovery. Now, who are these humans? Native Americans don't exist 50,000 years ago. Europeans don't exist 50,000 years ago. Who were they? See, so when we deal with the transatlantic slave trade, number one, when I teach it chronologically, because this is how some of my teachers, like Professor Kaba Kamene, Booker T. Coleman from the Hidden Colors documentaries, Professor James Small, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, this is how they teach it. Okay, so this is how it's taught. You can't deal with it episodically. You can't teach it episodically. You can't teach the transatlantic slave trade as an episode in history. So this is why we deal with the archaeological discoveries, because when these discoveries happen, they have to push the timelines back. When these discoveries happen, and Professor Kaba, when you hear him teach, he said, "I'm afraid of dates," because the timelines are being pushed back as these discoveries are made. The deeper they dig, the blacker the planet gets, the more research they do, the older we get, okay? So when you have somebody who's telling African people to go back to Africa, it's like, wait a second, do you want us to tell you where you should go back to? You don't want to deal with this history. Then, and see, this deals with the restaurant owner who posted on social media attacking Maxine Waters, telling her go back to Africa. Well, hold on, wait a second. We need to have a history lesson here, okay? First of all, our slave ancestors, enslaved Africans, were here before most of these Europeans' ancestors got here. One. Two, this was our land stolen from us. African people were here before Native Americans even came into existence. Yes, the transatlantic slave trade happened. This is why you have to deal with it chronologically. You can't just deal with the last 50,000. You can't just deal with the last 500 years of history, okay? You have to deal with the last 50,000 years of history, all right? Okay, so something else I want to show you. All right, so when we deal with, okay, so they say go back to Africa, right? If we look at the origin of the word America, we were taught in school that America was named after Amerigo Vespucius. Amerigo Vespucci, okay? Amerigo. I'm sorry, Amerigo. 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 His real name was Amerigo, okay? Amerigo Vespucci. If you read Fulcrums of Change by Jan Carew, Fulcrums of Change by Jan Carew, the historian Jan Carew, pages 91 through 105, okay? And this should come up here. Why isn't this coming up here? Hold on, let me see. Oh, okay. Resume slideshow. Just a second, let me bring up this slide, okay? If you read Fulcrums of Change by Jan Carew, pages 91 through 105, he deals with, let me see. I'm gonna make sure you see this slide. He deals with the origins of the word America, okay? The origins of the word America. And I may have to do this again, okay. Oh, I know what I didn't do. I have to share the screen. All right. Let's see, stop share and share again. Okay. Okay, so, and he deals with this linguistically, right? So, Amerigo Vespucci comes in contact with a group of Black African people in what today we call Nicaragua, okay? And they call themselves Los Amarisques, Los Amarisques, Amereskkes. And this comes, and they named themselves after a nearby mountain named Sierra Amérique, okay? Amerique, okay? And Amerigo Vespucci changes his name from Amerigo to Amerigo, basically in honor of these people, okay? And I found out about this from Professor Kaba Kamene. And I heard some things about the Ameri and Moors and things like this. So I asked him about it. So he faxed over the pages to me and I read them. And we did a show about this February 3rd, 2016, The Origin of the Word America on the Michael Imhotep Show. You can go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and you can listen to the podcast that we did of the show, okay? I'm not sure why this is not coming up. Let's see, share again. Okay, let's try that again. So you have the first Americans were Africans, one. The word America has an African origin, okay, two. And then if we look at the Noah Webster Dictionary, 1828 edition of the Noah Webster Dictionary, 1828 edition of the Noah Webster Dictionary, which is online. Just go to webstersdictionary1828.com and search for the word American. Search for the word American. It tells you that an American is a native of America. Originally, it applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans. Well, wait a second, hold on, stop. Originally, the term American applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans. So if it talks about who the Europeans found when they came to the Americas, they didn't find Europeans. It didn't apply to Europeans, one. Two, the copper-colored races and the Aboriginals are not Europeans. So the term America, is a Latin suffix denoting land. Ameri is in reference to a Black African people named the Los Amarisques in what today is called Nicaragua. So even the term American didn't even refer to Europeans. And you talking about go back to Africa. Africa's our land and this is our land too. Europeans need to study some history. You can go verify this yourself. Don't take my word for this. Proper documentation ends all conversation. Okay? We were here long before August 20th, 1619, Jamestown, Virginia. This is what a lot of our people don't understand. Okay? We were here long before the Mayflower, 1620. Okay? In 1620. We were here long before the Mayflower. This was our land stolen from us. Yes, the transatlantic slave trade happened. Okay? But you have to understand a chronology of history. All right? You have to understand a chronology of history. This is why you can't teach the transatlantic slave trade starting in 1440, 1441, dealing with the Portuguese, who were the first ones involved in the slave trade, who learned from the Arabs, because Arabs were enslaving Africans for hundreds of years, going back to 7th century AD, around 650 AD. Arabs were enslaving Africans for hundreds of years, and the Portuguese are going to learn the slave trade from the Arabs. Okay, so if we go back and look at this article here from, because all this is connected. Okay, I'm not off topic. I'm right on the topic. All this is connected. We go back and look at this article here from news1.com. Okay, we look at the article from news1.com dealing with Representative Maxine Waters. And let's see here. Let me get back to this. Okay, so this deals with the woman telling Maxine Waters to go back to Africa, this social media post, okay? Stop here. Okay, going back to this social media post. All right, Roseanne Lovin, restaurant owner, post racist message about Maxine Waters going back to Africa. Okay, news1.com. This is from June 28th. All right, and now the woman who goes on to say, the woman who has a history of posting offensive comments, including that she agreed with Roseanne Barr over the actress, comparing former President Barack Obama aide Valerie Jarrett to an ape in May of 2018, has deleted her Facebook page, NBC 12 reported, okay? Let's see, she had to, I think, yeah, so she deleted her Facebook page, okay? So check that out. Now, the Congressional Black Caucus is standing behind Maxine Waters also, and they better have, okay? I'm just saying. abcnews.go.com, which is the official website of ABC News. It's not abcnews.com. It's abcnews.go.com, okay? There's an article, Congressional Black Caucus defend Maxine Waters amid Trump feud. Congressional Black Caucus defend Maxine Waters amid Trump feud, okay? I'll give that article in just a second. Hey, if you like the information dealing with the African history, register for the online courses that I teach. We have them all on demand in the bundle pack, the $60, regularly $130. It includes ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, where they didn't teach in school. That's a 14-hour, 7-session. Yes, a 14-hour, 7-session online course. Those slides I showed you are some of the slides from the online course. We deal with thousands of years of history. There's a lot of bonus content. Also, it includes great African women in history, the mothers of civilization, African-American resistance in the era of Donald Trump, voter suppression, reparations, and how elections have consequences, and some other online courses as well, okay? They're all on demand. You can watch them around the world, smartphone, tablet, computer. And we posted the link here for that. Also is at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Right on the homepage, you can register there as well. Okay, Congressional Black Caucus defend Maxine Waters amid Trump feud, June 26, 2018. So the CBC is coming to Maxine Waters' defense amid her ongoing feud with Donald Trump after she called on opponents of the president to confront members of his cabinet in public places, okay? On Monday, Trump tweeted that Maxine Waters had called for harm on Trump supporters. He lied. She did not. She did not. Quote, she has just called for harm. She has just called for harm to supporters, of which there are many of the Make America Great Again movement. Be careful what you wish for, Max, end quote, he tweeted, okay? She did not call for that. He's trying to galvanize his base. He's lying, all right? Now, the CBC says Trump's characterization of Maxine Waters' remarks are a misrepresentation. Quote, in exercising her constitutional right to freedom of speech at a recent rally, Congresswoman Waters did not, as she has made clear, encourage violence like Trump has been doing since the election. She instead encouraged Americans to exercise their constitutional rights to freedom of speech and peaceful assembly, peaceful protest, by letting Trump and members of his administration know that separating young immigrant children from their parents is not who we are as a country. This was said by Congressman Cedric Richmond, who's the chairman of the CBC, okay? Richmond instead pointed to Trump's own language insinuating violence on the campaign trail. He said, quote, we cannot forget that President Trump as a candidate encouraged his supporters to beat up his detractors at rallies, and as president morally equated white supremacists with anti-racist activists and encouraged police officers to beat up suspects. Okay, well, he encouraged officers. He said, when you put, so he was talking about MS-13, he said, when you put somebody in a car who just killed somebody, you know, you put your hand over their head so they don't hit their hand. He said, you don't have to do that, take your hand away. So this is basically encouraging police brutality. Now, he said he was joking, but that's not a laughing matter. That's nothing to joke about. Okay. In fact, almost every day, Cedric Richmond went on to say, in fact, almost every day, President Trump says something that makes this country more dangerous for people who look like Congresswoman Waters and other minorities. Where is the national conversation on civility in these moments, he said, okay? Maxine Waters herself is calling out Trump for perpetuating what she calls, quote unquote, lies as well. And that's what they are, okay? And keep in mind, this is the same guy who made 3,251 false or misleading statements during the first 497 days of his campaign, as documented by the Washington Post, okay? Documented by the Washington Post. All right. So Erica said he is a habitual liar. Johnson will prayers for Maxine. If she's not getting Secret Service protection, she definitely needs Secret Service protection. She definitely needs that. Denise said, yes, you have to understand the history. The first colony was started in South Carolina. They were on the wrong coast. Okay, South Carolina was a Spanish colony. South Carolina, the Spanish were taking Africans into the territory we call South Carolina in the 1520s. That was a Spanish colony. The Spanish were involved in the slave trade before the British got involved. All right, you're dealing with British colonies on the East Coast. Okay, South Carolina is going to become part of the Union, but that was Spanish territory, just like Florida. Juan Ponce de Leon, the Spanish conquistador, comes into Florida in 1513. Florida was Spanish territory as well. They were taking enslaved Africans there. And when they were kicking out the Moors out of Spain, and the Moors lose control in 1492, some of the Moors are going to leave on their own. Some get conquered and enslaved. And they're taken into Spanish territories like South Carolina and Florida, as well as Mexico also. Keep in mind, Mexico, the Spanish was Spanish territory also. All right. Teresa said, so that, okay. All right. She's talking about Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Corey said, Amerigo Vespucci. Corey said, facts. Iris, well, will she get Secret Service detail also? She should. I'm not sure if she will. She should. Smalls, who you say America was named after, Amerigo Vespucci, whose real name was Amerigo Vespucci, but it comes, he changed it to Amerigo. That comes from the Los Amarisques, who were a group of Black African people in what today is called Nicaragua. Jan Carew talks about that in Fulcrums of Change, pages 91 through 105, okay? All right, so we'll keep following this story here. Gloria said, thanks for sharing the information. Hey, if you like this type of information, be sure to visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All my DVD lectures are there also. We have a 48-hour sale. We have a bundle pack going on right now, the 6 DVD Black Panther bundle pack. You get 3 of my presentations done with the film Black Panther and 3 other lectures. It's on sale $45, regularly $75. And then also we have the online courses I teach, which are really, really good value. So a ton of information there. It's 10 online courses, including ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach in school. There were thousands of years of history. That's on sale $60, regularly $130. And you can register there. We posted the link. It's also on the homepage of our website. And all this helps to support the African History Network, helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep doing our radio show, Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. The Superstation, helps us pay the bills. And if you want to donate to the African History Network, you can do that. PayPal.me/the AHN show. PayPal.me/the AHN show. Okay. I'll be in Atlanta for the Liberated Minds Black Homeschooling and Education Expo. Liberated Minds Black Homeschooling and Education Expo. I'll be in Atlanta July 13th through the 15th. Okay, so those in Atlanta, come on out to that. Visit liberatedmindsexpo.com if you want to learn more about homeschooling African American children from an African-centered perspective. I'll be interviewing Queen Thais, co-founder and co-organizer of the expo. I'll interview her today, Friday, June 29th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll do that here on Facebook also. Okay, look. Okay, Erica says you got an order. All right, we have some more orders shipping out today. Let's see here. Okay, we got Jack, incredible historical facts. All right, we got to get out of here. Hey, remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Remember, right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.